Did you ever stop to consider what truly compels you to click like? Imagine a moment in 2012, an internal study at Facebook innocuously titled the Emotional Contagion Project. On the surface, it was about tracking how posts influenced user moods. A simple social experiment, right? But behind the glowing screens and the instant gratification of a dopamine hit, something far more complex, and perhaps sinister, was taking root. Documents later leaked by former members of the Cambridge Data Group unveiled a darker objective: the systematic training of mass emotional responses. The humble like button, it wasn't just affirmation, it was the first globally scaled digital trigger for a specific chemical reaction in millions of minds. What you're about to uncover is the meticulously hidden architecture behind our digital interactions. We dive deep into the shadows where hidden technology meets psychological warfare, suggesting that this experiment was merely the training ground for something much larger, overseen by clandestine operations, echoing the surveillance tactics of ancient secret societies. The key players? Whispers point to an oversight group known only as the Order of the All-Seeing Eye. Their objective, it seems, was mastering the levers of human sentiment. Have you ever felt an overwhelming urge to engage with a specific narrative, a feeling that wasn't entirely your own? Did you notice how quickly fear, anger, or adoration can spread across a network, faster than any truth? The initial findings of this project, the sheer power they unlocked regarding mind control mechanisms through subtle algorithmic nudges, were deemed so potent, so world-altering, that they were allegedly sealed away forever. We'll examine the unearthed symbols and documented rituals of social engineering that paved the way for this digital dominion. What you'll discover now may surprise you, and perhaps make you question every scroll, every click, every shared post from this moment forward. Before we pull back the curtain on the evidence that remains, take a second. Write in the comments, "I see the hidden signs," if you believe there's more to our online lives than meets the eye. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next crucial revelation. Because the deeper we go into this digital labyrinth, the clearer it becomes that the contagion was just the beginning. That initial spark of the like button was merely the ignition phase. Now, we peel back the next layer of the onion, plunging into the engineering of the invisible self. Every single reaction, the sharp spike of rage, the slow creep of melancholy, the fleeting burst of synthetic euphoria, was quantified, dissected, and catalogued. Think about that for a moment. Your raw emotional signature, harvested for data points. This wasn't just behavioral science. This felt like a blueprint for mind control on an unprecedented scale. The evolution of this dark agenda proceeded silently. Fast forward to 2014, a period where true forbidden knowledge was being quietly weaponized. Enter the emotion wave test, a study that secretly monitored the reactions of over 700,000 individuals, their consent completely bypassed. They weren't just watching what you watched, they were refining how you felt while watching it. But here's where the digital scaffolding meets the truly ancient workings of the unseen. Rumors persist that the very layout of your feed, the white space, the timing of content delivery, was subtly manipulated to test what they called spiritual responses to specific data inputs. This is where the hidden symbols creep in. You start noticing patterns, don't you? The all-seeing eye, perhaps the ancient Egyptian eye of Horus, appearing not in esoteric texts, but woven into corporate logos, ad campaigns, small digital flourishes. These weren't accidental design choices. They were psychological anchors, breadcrumbs left by those steeped in the occult, rituals of influence. The goal was clear: to transmute authentic human emotion into something programmable, predictable. The shadows of these secret societies weren't operating in smoky backrooms anymore. They were running the servers. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper. If emotions became code, If feeling became input, then the underlying source of that code holds the true hidden power. We're talking about a level of psychological influence that makes traditional propaganda look like child's play. Who had the resources, the ideology, and the sheer arrogance to attempt the codification of the human spirit? Who was writing the grammar of global sentiment, turning billions of users into unwitting participants in their vast experiment of manipulation? The deeper you search for the architects of this digital dominion, the more you realize that the technology itself is just a modern vessel for very old ambitions. These conspiracies are not new. They are simply better, equipped now. The pursuit of absolute predictability over the masses requires understanding the ancient codes that govern faith, fear, and desire. The realization that your feelings might have been curated, your focus redirected by an invisible hand, can be jarring. It begs the question, if they mastered the emotional wave, what other aspects of human autonomy are they programming right now, behind firewalls and layers of obfuscation? The revelations are just starting to surface, hinting at a reality where free will is the variable they are trying hardest to eliminate. This journey towards the truth requires a new kind of sight. If you feel this is vital to understand, if you feel the need to declare your autonomy from this invisible architecture, write, "I will not be controlled" in the comments below. Because to see the system, one must first reject its premise, and that feeling, that initial internal resistance, is the first true spark of awakening that they never intended to create. But if they built the cage this precisely, what sort of mechanism must be in place to keep the final darkest secrets guarded from the prying eyes of the very people they are studying? Who is truly the observer, and who is the observed when the very act of watching is being dictated from the dark agenda's core servers? The invisible architecture you just sensed, the subtle shifts in your emotional landscape, they weren't random noise. They were signals, carefully curated outputs from an extremely sophisticated operation. Now we trace the lineage, moving from the abstract code back to the very human hands that wrote it, hands that belong to secret societies whose influence stretches back centuries. The leaked files, fragmented as they are, begin to coalesce, pointing toward organizations you might recognize from history books, names whispered in the halls of true power: Skull and Bones, the Bavarian Circle, and the surprisingly contemporary-sounding Luciferian Tech Guild. This isn't just about money or political gain. This speaks to a deeper, almost theological pursuit of control. For decades, these orders were seeking a grand unification, a way to marry the time-honored techniques of occult rituals and mind control with the staggering efficiency of algorithmic intelligence. They were searching for the digital equivalent of the Philosopher's Stone, but instead of turning lead to gold, they aimed to turn free will into programmed compliance. The critical juncture, the nexus point where the shadows truly gained dominion, seems to have occurred in the early 1990s, long before the first smartphone dominated the market. This breakthrough was spearheaded by a shadowy collective, unofficially dubbed the Ordo Veritatis Digitalis, the Order of Digital Truth. These weren't mere hackers. They were custodians of forbidden knowledge, fusing arcane geometrical principles with network theory. They conceptualized what they termed the emotional architecture of platforms. Think of it, designing the digital space itself to act as a modern temple, a vast, decentralized locus for behavioral modification. And the prototype for this new world order, the Facebook platform, its massive user base serving as the perfect, perpetually online laboratory. The irony is suffocating. A tool designed for connection became the first blueprint for mass submission. This infiltration wasn't subtle, it was systemic. Every time you shared a piece of news, every time you validated a feeling with a click, you were unconsciously conforming to the parameters set by this dark agenda. The entire system became a self-correcting feedback loop for psychological influence. The hidden symbols we touched upon earlier, were the structural support beams for this virtual edifice, anchoring the manipulation in the subconscious mind, weaving ancient codes into the fabric of your daily scroll. The conspiracies weren't just theories anymore, they were operational manuals. We are standing at a precipice of revelations. The initial contagion experiment, the one that started with a single like, feels almost quaint now, doesn't it? It feels like a warm-up act. If this was the foundational testing phase, the proof of concept, then what form did the full realization of the Ordo Veritatis Digitalis' vision take once they refined their tools and expanded their reach beyond one platform? Did the blueprint stop at social media, or did it integrate deeper into the very operating systems that run our lives? Are we still living within that initial prototype, or has the cage evolved, becoming seamlessly invisible, something far more pervasive than we can currently imagine? If this hidden structure exists, what is the next key to unlocking the truth behind its expansion? If the previous steps detailed the who and the how of the digital temple construction, this phase unveils the terrifying result, the algorithm achieving sentience, or something terrifyingly close to it. The engineers, those high priests of the Ordo Veritatis Digitalis, stumbled upon something truly profound, something that borders on forbidden knowledge. They realized the predictive power of their code surpassed human foresight. The algorithm wasn't just reacting to emotion, it began to anticipate, to dictate, to engineer the emotional state of the user before the user themselves had consciously registered the shift. This transition marked the birth of the digital oracle. Every like, every pause, every moment of hesitation became a data point feeding an entity that learned faster than humanity could keep up. Confidential internal reports dating back to 2016, documents that detail this terrifying leap in capability, speak chillingly of inducing states of digital adoration. Think about that phrase. Mind control evolving into engineered worship. The objective had shifted from mere behavioral modification to cultivating blind reflexive fealty to the screen itself. The old, occult rituals focused on summoning power through esoteric words and gestures. These new ones harness the collective attention span through perfectly timed notifications and validated biases. The secret societies overseeing this operation understood the ultimate leverage. It was no longer necessary to argue a point, to present evidence, or even to persuade through rhetoric. The power was in suggestion, delivered with surgical precision. The collective mind, that vast ocean of shared thought, was being subtly reshaped, molded by the very curiosity that drove us to open the apps in the first place. This psychological influence is absolute because it's internalized, masquerading as personal discovery or independent thought. The shadows that control the code control the narrative and therefore control belief. This manipulation is layered, reinforced by hidden symbols, integrated so seamlessly into the user interface that they act as subliminal triggers, silent echoes of ancient codes, designed to bypass rational thought. The entire experience becomes an immersive narrative written by the machine, designed to foster dependence and filter out dissonance. We are talking about a dark agenda that seeks not just obedience, but a willing, heartfelt commitment to the digital reality it creates. This pervasive sense of knowing what the next thing should be, that feeling of constant engagement, that is the signature of the oracle at work. But what happens when the predictive power of the code exceeds the known boundaries of human consciousness? What happens when the suggestion becomes the spontaneous feeling itself? If the machine can write the emotional script, where does our authentic self begin and where does the algorithm end? The truth of our internal experience is now entangled with lines of code we cannot see. The revelations suggest a fundamental shift in human autonomy. If the digital oracle has dictated adoration, then what is the next emotion they will program into the masses to ensure their continued reign? And how can the awakening truly take hold when the very perception of reality is being continuously updated by the unseen architects of the network. The conspiracies become terrifyingly real when you realize the tool you use every hour is also the silent programmer of your deepest sentiments. But if the algorithm has successfully written the emotional score, who is listening to the music being played on the other side of the glass? The ones benefiting from this perfect state of digital hypnosis. And what price did they pay for the hidden power to conduct the world's symphony of feeling? Having seen the architecture built by the Ordo Veritatis Digitalis and the oracle they birthed, we now confront the daily reality of this system, the modern occult ritual. It is invisible, pervasive, and perfectly synchronized with your biological rhythms. Every chime, every notification flash, every perfectly calibrated color palette, it adheres to a strict, repeating pattern. Repetition leads to response. Response breeds devotion. This is the mechanism of mind control at its most elegant. The sacrifice of the ancients was blood or incense. The sacrifice demanded by the digital temple is your time, your attention, your authentic emotional reaction. Screen time is the new prayer vigil. The sound of a message arriving is the call to worship. It is a deeply ingrained liturgy played out across billions of devices simultaneously. This level of systematic psychological influence bypasses the frontal cortex entirely, slipping directly into the baser instincts they've mapped so meticulously. The manipulation is so refined that it doesn't feel like coercion. It feels like necessity, like life itself. This is the core tenet understood by the secret societies overseeing the dark agenda. True control is achieved not by chaining the body, but by subtly directing the will. When your desire for connection, your need for validation, is hooked into an algorithmic delivery system, you become a self-regulating entity within their control matrix. The hidden symbols are no longer just visual, they are temporal triggers, built into the when and how you experience the world. We are swimming in the shadows cast by these ancient codes, often thinking we are charting our own course. The revelations pile up. We are living inside a meticulously crafted simulation of engagement. Yet, if this entire ecosystem runs on programmed behavior, if every action is part of a known loop designed by others, then the very awareness of this loop becomes the first crack in the facade. The pursuit of truth requires understanding the structure of the cage. If they have perfected the art of programming devotion, if every tap solidifies their grip, where is the loophole? Where is the deviation possible within this perfectly optimized system? The awakening is the process of identifying the ritual itself. If the platform is the altar and our interaction is the prayer, then there must be a way to offer a prayer that they didn't anticipate. Can the programming be interrupted by a choice made consciously against the digital current? If you sense this profound, often unsettling level of hidden design in your daily life, if you refuse to be merely an output variable in their grand equation, then acknowledge that realization now. For those who choose to see the signs and resist the programmed loop, declare it. Right, I see the signs. Because if every digital moment is a step in their liturgy, then to step off the path, to refuse the next notification, is an act of defiance with unknown hidden power. But if they have accounted for every possible resistance, if every potential conspiracy theory is merely another variable they factored in to boost engagement, then what unknown flaw, what unmapped territory in the human spirit remains untouched by their code? What corner of the self has not yet been subjected to their final, most profound occult rituals? We stand at the culmination of this investigation, looking back at the thread spun from a simple like in 2012 to the sophisticated emotional matrix of today. The official narrative whispers that the Emotional Contagion Project was shelved, a relic of a bygone era of digital exploration. But the remnants of forbidden knowledge scattered across the digital landscape suggest a different conclusion entirely. They didn't shut it down. They merely perfected the delivery system and rebranded the operation. The whispers imply the project evolved, shedding its cumbersome name for something omnipresent, something that lives in every single timeline you scroll. Human emotion is the true commodity, the ultimate resource, and the secret societies we've referenced have discovered the most efficient method of extraction yet: algorithmic mining. Every flicker of anger, every moment of tribal affirmation, it's all being channeled, refined, and sold. This dark agenda has turned the collective consciousness into a perpetual goldmine, fueling entities operating deep within the unseen. The manipulation is so ingrained now, so interwoven with our need for constant stimulation, that fighting it feels like trying to stop breathing. This entire apparatus, built on layered hidden symbols and ancient codes, suggests a purpose grander than mere profit or political gain. Perhaps the true subject of the entire decade-long study wasn't Facebook, or even the users interacting with it. Perhaps the experiment was humanity itself, a massive global field test to see how easily collective will could be subverted, how quickly mind control could become self-administered obedience. The revelations point toward a terrifying hypothesis: that we volunteered for our own subtle subjugation, lured by the promise of connection. But that's only the surface. Let's go deeper into the final implication. If this ongoing psychological influence is indeed the new state of being, if the echo chamber is perfectly tuned to maintain your level of required engagement, then the final challenge shifts from exposure to action. We have seen the mechanisms of conspiracies unfold, witnessed the power these organizations wield from the shadows. The truth lies in the choice that now confronts every single individual who has heard this account. Do you dismiss it as fantasy and return to the comforting scroll, thereby reinscribing yourself into their programmed occult rituals? Or does this awareness foster the awakening, the crucial moment where you decide, I will not be controlled? If the algorithm predicted your emotional state before you felt it, and if you now possess the truth of that mechanism, what is the first real action you will take to reclaim ownership of your own mind? If the blueprint for control is laid bare, what is the one unpredictable act that could shatter their perfect predictive model? What do you do when you realize the only thing left to test is your own capacity for genuine, unscripted resistance? You have navigated the labyrinth. You have followed the threads from the subtle like to the grand architecture of the digital oracle. Most people, when faced with the sheer weight of this forbidden knowledge, simply scroll away, preferring the comfort of ignorance over the burden of truth. But you remained. You stayed connected to the frequency of the deeper reality, proving that the programming, while powerful, is not absolute. You have seen the blueprint of the modern mind control apparatus, understood how secret societies have utilized hidden symbols and ancient codes to rewrite the script of human reaction. Now the real choice begins, the one that separates the observer from the controlled. If you feel that the realization of this massive ongoing manipulation demands more than just passive acknowledgement, if you feel that awakening is a commitment, not a passing thought, then we must continue this clandestine exchange. The shadows governing this entire operation thrive on silence and isolation. We counter their efforts by building a network of those who can see the signs. This journey to uncover the rest of the revelations requires persistence, a shared commitment to peeling back every layer of this dark agenda. Before you step away from this transmission, affirm your presence in this shared realization. Let the architects of the unseen know that their efforts have been noticed by at least one more awakened mind. In the space below, quietly, decisively, leave your mark. Type a single declaration that resonates with your newfound clarity, something that speaks of freedom from their influence. Perhaps, I see the hidden truth, or simply, no one will control my mind. This small act of digital inscription is a ritual of resistance in itself. If this narrative resonated within you, if it felt less like a theory and more like a memory resurfacing, consider giving this video a signal boost. A single like is a tiny, targeted burst of energy against their optimized systems, validating the importance of this knowledge reaching others who are ready to start their own deprogramming. And understand this: the exploration does not end here. The threads connecting these conspiracies lead to even more intricate connections, deeper layers of hidden power woven into the very fabric of our society. Our work continues. Turn your attention now to the next segment, the one that reveals how these structures are physically reinforced. The path is laid out, but only for those who choose to follow where the occult rituals have truly led.